Ladies and gentlemen, here is my 2025 AFL Ladder prediction. This was not an easy task to put together this ladder. And like every year, like I say, you can say whatever you want in the comments, but my opinion is as valid as yours because this is before the season. No one knows what's going to happen. For all we know, Richmond could bob up and win the flag this year because at the moment, every team has not won a game. Opinions are like arseholes. Everyone has one, so don't get too upset if I don't put your team too high on this ladder. I haven't done any notes for this video, so I'm just going to absolutely blag why I think each team will finish where they will finish, because this is tough. Starting off, nice and easy, subscribe to the channel and leave a like on the video if you want more good footy content. Beautiful. At the end of the video, I'm going to predict the Rising Star, the Brownlow Medal, the Grand Finalists, and the flag winners, so stick around for that. We're going to start off the ladder prediction by chucking Richmond at the bottom of the ladder in 18th. This is a nice and easy one to get started. They're a very young side. I'd be surprised if they won more than 2 games this year. The Tigers, they are full-scale rebuild. They lost a lot of their high-end talent. They're just going to stink it up in 2025. Second last, in 17th, I have the West Coast Eagles. I think they could finish higher than this. I think they might take a couple people by surprise this year. They've still got a pretty decent best 22. It's just a matter of whether they can keep guys like Yo and Kelly on the park. Oscar Allen has a massive year coming up, and so does Harley Reid, the young star. That'll be a space to watch. But Barras leaving, it weakens their defensive stocks. But they've still got a lot of growth in this list. So I think they could surprise some people and be more competitive this year, although I have them finishing in second last. In 16th, I have the North Melbourne Kangas, who at some point they're going to have to pop up. The only problem I have with the Kangaroos is their defense, which is absolutely stinky. Who do you think of when you think of North Melbourne defenders? You think Comden, Riff Logue. These guys just probably a second or third best defender in any other good side. Forward of the ball, North midfield, and their forward line is looking pretty strong. But behind it, if they lose a contest and the ball is going into their defensive 50, I just don't have any confidence that they can stop goals going through. Right, those are the 3 easy ones that have sort of been at the bottom of the ladder for the last few years, so that's fine. Now the tricky stuff starts, because I think from this point on, everyone's going to have a different opinion, and you're going to have to make a big call. So my big call is that the Western Bulldogs finish in the bottom 4 in 2025 after making finals last year. This is a massive statement to make. The Dogs, they've pretty much been a contender for the last sort of 7 years. But I think their time that they're going to drop will be in 2025. The reason I think that, I think they've just got key injuries to guys like Liam Jones, Cody Waitman. No one knows what's really happening with Jamara. And Adam Treloar, I think he's going to miss the start of this season as well. The Bond did a bit of a calf yesterday in the Pracky match. I don't know how serious that is or if it was just a precaution. I just don't really think they have that much depth. Definitely in defence. Rory Lobb in defence, I'm not a massive fan of, even though he can intercept the ball. But where do you go to from there? The wingers, I don't really know about. The small forwards outside of Cody Waitman, can they get the job done? I'm not sure. This is the end of Bontempelli's contract. Bevo has been under the chopping block for a while now. Just sounds like there's a lot going on at the Bulldogs, and I'm not buying into the Doggies this year. I'm sorry, Doggies fans. If you feel differently, get in the comments below and tell me why I'm wrong, but I want to have yous in the bottom 4. I'm sorry. In 14th, I'm going to put the St Kilda Saints. I actually did want to put yous higher, but I think there is just such a good competition at the moment. I do expect the Saints to be hard to beat all year. I like a lot of their young players, but still levels to go, particularly in that forward line. But the young stars are going to continue to develop. Nazaya Wanganeen-Miller, Darcy Wilson. Hopefully they can get some consistent footy into guys like Liam Henry. But Max King still seems to be carrying injury a lot of the time, which puts the onus on guys like Cooper Sharman and those sort of B grade / C+ forwards. Still putting it together at St Kilda. Still a young side and still got a lot of development to go. So from 13th to sort of 8th, 7th, I think you could have this in any order, and the competition's so tight. I feel like this year, again, is going to go down to the wire, and there's going to be a lot of teams in the last 2 rounds of the season that can play in finals. Team that hasn't won a final in a long time is Essendon, and I'm sorry, Dons fans, but I'm going to have you finishing in 13th. I do think there will be improvement to Essendon, however. I like Caddy, I like Kako, but they're going to take some time to evolve and mature at the AFL level. The midfield strong, the back six, just, I don't know, I don't buy it. Essendon fans, let me know what you guys think. I actually do think you'll improve this year, weirdly enough, even though I've had you decline on the ladder. But I'm going to keep an eye on Essendon this year because I do want to see them improve. But Essendon fans, have your say. How do you think you'll go this season? In 12th, a side that I really wanted to put in the top 8, but I couldn't when I did my ladder predictor, was the Gold Coast Suns. Gold Coast have a great midfield. Their back six is as good as any in the comp, especially with the addition of Dan Rioli and John Noble. So they've got some of that run now, that run and carry, the transition from the back half. And their forward line is looking healthy now as well. Hopefully Leo Lombard doesn't miss too much footy. But Jed Walter, Bailey Humphries in that forward line look like they're going to be really exciting prospects this year as well. I do see Gold Coast pushing for finals this year, but I think from last season, their inability to compete with the best sides away from home is probably a factor that, for me, means that I can't predict them in my top 8. I'm sorry, Suns fans. God, this is tough. In 11th, I've got a top 4 side from last year, and that is the Port Adelaide Power. I think they're just going to struggle at the start of the year with some injuries to key defenders. Zirk Thatcher's out, Radigalier's out, Big Todd Marshall's out, although they do have some good key forward stocks, and Butters is going to miss the first 6 weeks of the season as well, which you never want to hear for a star player in the competition. I just feel like Port Adelaide fans are so discontent, if that's a word, with the way that their club is handling the Ken Hinkley situation, with the transition of the coach. It feels like Port Adelaide fans just want drastic change within their club. They want someone from the outside to bring some fresh ideas. Basically, I just think they're going to have a slow start to the year with injuries, and the sort of transition to Josh Carr, I think, might make a bit of a weird dynamic, and it might just be a bit of a stinky year for Port fans. That's how I'm going to warrant the case that a top 4 side is going to drop to 11th. I'm sorry, Port fans. Have your say in the comments. How do you guys think you'll go this year? In 10th, another side that people think will be pushing for the premiership. This competition is so tight, but I think that Carlton will miss finals in 2025. Charlie Curnow will miss the start of the season. They've got Jagger Smith out for the season, as well as Nick Newman. I think Nick Newman is such a massive player for them, and I think Jagger Smith would have provided them with some more depth in the midfield. Even though Carlton have a great midfield with a 2-time Brownlow medalist in Cripper, I just don't have confidence that Walsh and Chera can stay on the park. And I feel like if you can take Cripper out of the game, if some injuries do occur to some of their midfielders, which has continually happened year in, year out, I feel like Carlton might not be as hard to beat as they have been in the past couple years. I don't see massive growth to occur in Carlton this year, and even though they are still in the premiership window, I just don't think this is going to be the year of the Blues. Carlton fans, have your say. I know you're probably not going to like that call at all, especially coming from me. How do you think you'll go in 2025, given the injuries that you have? That is tough. That is hard. I've got another top 4 side missing the top 8 in 2025. They're a grand finalist. I'm going to say the Sydney Swans miss out on finals in 2025. I can see the Swans fans behind the screens absolutely outraged. Sydney fans, I'm sorry. I just don't have faith in that spine after what we saw in the back end of last year, where Port absolutely pumped you. You didn't show up to the grand final. GWS really should have buried you in that first qualifying final as well. We just need to see growth from Amadi, from Logan McDonald, and all the talk is that they're going to send Tom McCartan forward, who's your best key defender. I'm not a massive fan of your back six stocks in terms of just lockdown defending. Going forward and transitioning the ball, very exciting. Midfield is as good as it gets. But it's just going to be a tight competition this year. Callum Mills will be out early in the season with injury. I can't find any space for him in my top 8, given some of the other teams that I expect to rise in 2025. So I'm sorry, Swans fans, but I think you'll just miss out on the top 8 in 2025. God, the disappointment on all of you guys' faces at home. I'm sorry. This is hard. If you had to do this, you'd have to leave out some big teams. Probably one that could be interchangeably swapped, but I want to see them do well this year, and I think they will improve, is the Melbourne Football Club, who I have in 8th position. I think the D's will get back closer to their best this year. I think their midfield last year was absolutely diabolical, but they've still got all the key pieces there in Petrarca, Oliver, Trent Rivers, who stepped up and played a massive role last year. Cozzy Pickett's going to improve, and they've still got Gorney, May, Lever. I think Van Rooyen will be a massive improvement again in their forward line. They got an easier draw this year as well, so when I did the ladder predictor, they do have an easier draw to tip for them. And even in the back end of last year, there was a few games that they lost narrowly, like against GWS, Port Adelaide. They narrowly lost to Carlton earlier on in the season as well. So, you know, a few of those coin toss games, they went up to the Gabba and nearly beat Brisbane. So they're not too far from it. And they had a blip in the radar last year when they were expected to continue being a sort of top contender. I just feel like these old boys at Melbourne have one more push left within them for the premiership if they can stay healthy. And I think they will be a hard side to play against in 2025. So I've got the D's just scraping into the top 8. In 7th, I have Adelaide. Now, a lot of people don't get the Adelaide hype, and even Crows fans don't have the belief in their club. They're going to have a lot of growth this year, the Crows, particularly in guys like Dan Curtin and Riley Thilthorpe. Rankin is one of the best players in the competition. Jordan Dawson's an absolute jet. The acquisition of James Peatling from GWS, I think, is massive. He's a great contested inside player, so he just slots straight into that midfield. Alex Neil-Bullen, he's a heart and soul player, straight into the leadership group. He leads by example, and he's a hard player to come up against. His pressure's elite, his marking's elite, and he's lethal around goal as well. They pick up Sid Draper, another high-end draft talent. Hopefully he can buck the trend of sort of poor first round picks that they've had in the past. I'd like to see him play early on in the season. And then their forward line with Ben Keys, Thilthorpe, who I want to see do big things this year, the big Darcy Fogarty, Tex. They've got good stocks down there. Maybe a little bit thin in their back six, but I think I like Nix. I like the way that they go about it. They're a tough side. They had a bit of a blip in the radar last year, but that happens when teams are on the rise. They get that expectation, they have a little bit of a drop-off, and then they go again. And I think the Crows will make finals in 2025. I've got Collingwood in at 6th, who I expect after a premiership hangover will jump back up into the top 8. Even though they're labelled as the old boys, I still think that these guys do have class. If you can keep Moore, Howe, and Pendlebury fit, I think they will be in good stead. I think the acquisition of Membry in the forward line just shores them up forward of the ball a bit. And then Dan Houston, what a get he is. He can play on that half-back role or inside as well. He's an absolute jet. Pair that up with Dacos, who's now going to have Harry Perryman helping him out in that midfield. They've just strengthened over the off-season, and they're never an easy side to beat, Collingwood. They're small forwards, as good as any in the comp with Bobby Hill, Lockie Schultz, Jamie Elliott, if he can stay fit, they get up the ground. And Dan McStay, who hasn't played much footy due to injury, will also be like a new signing to them as well. They've got a really strong list, the Pies. Maybe not deep, but their best 22 is definitely a top sort of 6 in the competition. So I think the Pies will make finals in 2025, and a lot of people think they could push for the flag. I'm not sure if I'd say that much, but I think they will make finals. In 5th, I have GWS, who still have one of the most stacked lineups in the competition. That forward line is a joke. They've added Jake Stringer to that. They've got Cadman, the Coleman medalist, in Jesse Hogan, Callum Brown, Toby Green, young Darcy Jones, and Brent Daniels, who's one of the best small forwards in the comp. You go down back, Sam Taylor's been one of the best fullbacks of the last few years. You got Jack Buckley, who's super underrated, Lee Kalia, who has buckets of talent, and then you got guys like Lockie Whitfield, Ash, and then just the elite midfield, Tom Green, Finn Callahan, who's going to continue to improve. I know Tom Green's going to miss a little bit of footy at the start of the year, but they're stacked. Not more needs to be said for GWS. I think they're a lock for the top 8. In 4th, I have the Brisbane Lions. They look good. They look really good. Just not sure how well they're going to get off with the shortened sort of off-season period, with them playing all the way to the end of September and then playing in opening round. That's the only real reason why I don't have them finishing as a top 1 or 2 side, but Brisbane could easily go back-to-back. The acquisition of Levi Ashcroft is massive. He already looks like an absolute jet from what I've seen in the preseason games. Call me biased, but I have the Dockers in at 3rd position in the 2025 ladder. Doing the squiggle ladder predictor, I was being harsh on us, and I still managed to get us in the top 4. Last year, I thought we were pretty much a top 4 side all year until some tough results went against us in the last month of footy. But I think our midfield is as good as anyone's in the comp. I think Amos and Tracy is a great 1-2 key forward partnership. You chuck Shea Bolton in there with the speed of Michael Frederick, Sam Swiatkowski, Luke Jackson, who rolls through the forward line and plays second ruck. Jeremy Sharp and O'Driscoll on the wings are elite, and then our back six is as strong as any in the competition. It's just about the belief whether we can take it to that next level. But guys like Caleb Sarong, who was a top 5 player in the Brownlow last year, he's going to drive the standards. Hayden Young, he'll miss the first round of footy, but he is, you know, in all Australian form. Well, he was in 2024. I just don't really see a weakness in our side. We've got a good mixture of youth coming through, and now those players that have sort of played 100 to 150 games, that high level talent. I just think we're set, and I think we will be close to being a top 4 side, if not embedded in the top 4 this year. In second, I have Hawthorn. Now, lots of people don't think that teams sort of just continue to go up and up and up, but I look at Hawthorn's list and I just think they're so stacked. They're back 6 now with Barras and Battle to complement James Sicily and Hardwick, who are 2 swingmen. They can go either way. Scrimshaw's an absolute jet in that back 6 as well. Then their midfield, super dynamic with Will Day, Warple and Jai Newcomb, really tough. D'Ambrosio and Amon on the wings. Then their forward line, hopefully Mitchy Lewis can come back in and play footy at some point. But without Mitch Lewis, they've still got Mabior Chol and Kao Shadir, who showed a lot last year. Then their small forward brigade is super impactful as well. Dylan Moore, who was All-Australian last year, with Nick Watson, Jack Ginnivan. And those sort of small to medium-sized forwards are becoming really important in today's game. So I think the football they play is super exciting. Sam Mitchell's one of the best coaches in the AFL, and I expect the Hawks to continue to improve and be a contender again in 2025, which leaves Geelong on top. They're going to be so hard to beat all year. I said that they had a list in transition in a video I made the other day, but that doesn't mean that that list transitioning is necessarily a negative thing. They've allowed a lot of youth to come into this side over the past year or so, and they just get absolutely everything out of the role players in this team. To think that guys like Ryan Myers, Shannon Neal, Tom Stewart, they just get for absolute peanuts and turn them into superstars is unreal. Ollie Henry's looking the goods. Jeremy Cameron will continue to do what he does. The only questions I really have is on their midfield. Maxi Holmes, I expect, will run through there a little bit more. Danger, does he have another full season in him? But I just think those high half forwards that push up the ground really do a number for the Cats, and they're rock solid defensively. So hard to beat down at the Cattery. And I just expect they'll improve again on last year where they made a prelim, and they'll go again. There is the ladder. That was absolutely tough. I'm getting into a sweat just trying to explain why I've made the decisions I've had. Get your ladders in the comments below. Now it's time for the Rising Star, Brownlow Medal, Grand Final, and Flag winner predictions. Here we go. I want to hit you with the Rising Star first and foremost, and I think Joe Berry for Port Adelaide will be the Rising Star in 2025. Having seen him play in the National Championships, he works up and down the ground really well. He's a great aerial presence, but super crafty in front of goal as well, and I think he'll be in Port Adelaide's best 22 very quickly. For the Brownlow Medal, for the end of time, I'm going to tip Nick Dacos because he is the best player in the comp by a mile. Hardly makes a clanger, always breaks lines, accumulates the ball, hits the scoreboard. This guy is going to be the best player of the generation if he isn't already. And the grand final prediction, I'm going to say that Geelong take on the Brisbane Lions in the 2025 grand final, which is a rematch of the prelim last year. I just think Geelong are so well coached by Chris Scott. They're going to continue to evolve, and I think Brisbane are just primed to go again. Watching them play yesterday against Adelaide in the Community Series, they look so slick. Their ball movement is one touch. They're connected really well. And they've still got so many young stars that are just hitting their primes now. So I'm going to say that Geelong take on Brisbane. And my premier, I'm going to say the Brisbane Lions go back to back. They've just sort of matured and gelled after all those years of prelim losses, of semi-final losses. But I think now they are ready to genuinely go again for another flag. They know how to get it done. They've got to fill that Danaher void, but they might play 2 rucks with the Big O and Darcy Fort. I think Logan Morris will have another massive season. He showed his talent on grand final day. Kai Lohmann's an absolute jet in that forward line. They're absolutely so stacked. Best midfield in the competition. And I wouldn't be surprised to see the Lions go back to back. That felt like an absolute marathon. Thank you guys for watching to this point. Get in the comments below how you think your ladder will shape up, and also all of those Brownlow Rising Star and Grand Final predictions. I'm so pumped. Footy season is only a few days away now, and I hope you guys are as keen as I am. Hit subscribe to follow along for the content this season. There's going to be a lot of exciting stuff coming soon. I appreciate you watching. Leave a like on the video, and I'll see you soon. Until then, take care. You Plonkers.